Right. Epigenetics is a very interesting field of study. It's the study of how we can modify gene expression without touching the DNA sequence. So what we're doing is adding chemical modifications to the DNA, and that affects how genes are expressed, and that affects eventually the phenotype.
DNA is the basis of what makes us unique. Many people believe that lifestyle affects the expression of our genes. What if it were true? Will epigenetics provide the answer? Epigenetics is a major area of current research. It involves studying the changes of gene expression caused by mechanisms other than changes in the actual DNA sequence.
Now, in terms of epigenetics, what we're really thinking about that epi in this context means on top of. So there's a code on top of the DNA code. DNA is itself modified on cytosine residues. So you get methylation of cytosines, and that generally has a negative impact on gene accessibility. The more highly methylated the DNA, the less accessible it is. And in the context of protein coding genes, then the more highly methylated it is, the less likely it is for that gene to be expressed.
Think about the genome being like a universal blueprint, and the information in the genome is present in every cell, whether it's a neuron or a hepatocyte or a white blood cell. It's all the same genetic information. And so because those cells are very different and do different jobs, it's important that information is annotated, and so it can be appropriate to the situations in which those cells find themselves. And I guess that's probably how I would look at epigenetics. It's an additional level of information which helps to control the blueprint, the universal blueprint for all the cells in your body.
We now know that gene expression is epigenetically affected by environment and lifestyle. Can these epigenetic modifications cause diseases such as cancer?
The cancer cell, which is evolving effectively to grow, so the cancer cell wants to both proliferate and survive. It's going to switch on genes which promote cancer growth, and it's going to switch off tumor suppressors. So a cancer cell would like to switch off P16 and then keep it off because it's limiting growth. Okay. The way that you do that then is that you hypermethylate. You increase the methylation associated with a P16 promoter.
One study that we're doing in our lab at the moment is looking at a gene called the MET proto-oncogene, which is a gene that's overexpressed in some cancers. And within the promoter of that gene is an L1 element, which is one of the retrotransposons we work on, and whether a isoform of this MET gene, which is associated with bladder cancer, is expressed or not, is entirely dependent upon the methylation status of that L1 promoter.
You know, there's probably evidence that all diseases have an epigenetic component.
An example of such a disease is ankylosing spondylitis. The case of Joshua and Jesus may provide us with more understanding.
We're identical twins, which means we're genetically identical. That's because we're monozygotic twins. We both developed from the same zygote, so we share 100% of our genes. However, I suffer from a disease called ankylosing spondylitis, whereas Joshua doesn't. It causes many back problems since my vertebrae are starting to fuse together, which, trust me, it causes a lot of pain. And apparently it's closely linked to an allele coding for the human leukocyte antigen B27. We both have the allele and we both express it, but my brother's lifestyle has probably induced the disease. Yes, it's probably due to the fact that I practice Taekwondo. It involves a lot of contact and strain on my joints, and it has triggered the development of my disease. So even though it is known that there is some genetic basis to the disease, clearly environmental factors also affect it.
Since fetal development is epigenetically affected by lifestyle, should women be legally obligated to stop working during pregnancy?
The environmental exposures and how that might impact, for example, on a pregnant mother. I think you'd probably be more concerned about environmental factors such as mutagens or physiological stressors, but the details of how these things work and the relative importance of different factors is still, you know, we're not in a position where we can be doing risk assessments and giving people useful health advice, I don't think, at this stage.
Can an individual seek legal advice over the actions of their parents? Would obtaining epigenetic information about an individual lead to discrimination by others? And should insurance companies be allowed your epigenetic information for assessment? These are many of the bioethical concerns in epigenetics. Will they play a more significant role in the future? Only time will tell.